So I've moved this formula here out of the way because this is the main formula I'm going to concentrate on. So for question 3, so it says that the dressmaker sells their dresses for €275 each, and that the variable cost, so this is the variable cost is materials and would be labor involved in it, so 150, okay, involved in each dress. We'll multiply that by quantity, so this is the figure we're looking for, the unknown figure. Take away from that our fixed cost. The fixed cost is 25,000, okay, and that will give us our profit. Now the profit at break-even point is always going to be 0, so if I move the numbers around, I'll end up with a Q, so quantity on this side of the equal sign, move the 25 over the other side, so I'll click 25,000, and then I'll divide that 25,000 by the difference, so this number here, the contribution it's called, that's the difference in sales and variable cost. If I move that over onto the other side, that's 125, so we divide those two numbers and that will give me my break-even quantity, which I'm going to put up here beside break-even quantity. So I'm taking out my calculator, so to do my sum, so 25,000 divided by 125 gives me a figure of 200. And 200 what? It's not money, so it's 200 units, in this case it's dresses, because that's what this business makes. So break-even point, I'm going to put 200. Okay. So I've now calculated the break-even quantity. I need to now turn this into the break-even revenue, so I multiply this by the sales price. So the sales price in this case is 275. So that's, I'm trying to find a number to put over here for break-even in money terms. So 200 dresses at €275 each means I'll earn €55,000. And again, sticking with labeling the diagram here, this amount here, okay, which is, that's the total cost line. So the total cost when quantity is 0 means there's no variable cost. So this here is going to be the fixed cost only, which is 25,000. And that looks approximately to scale, okay? So I could scale up the rest of the diagram, but I wouldn't be doing that. So here, for example, I could have a scale here of 100 dresses, or over here I'd have 300 dresses. Now I'm looking for, it says they plan to sell 500 dresses and have fixed costs of 25,000 a year. So that means if I stick approximately to scale, I might just zoom this in so that we can see a little bit clearer. So if I look at the quantity, I've got the break-even point here of 200. So if I just marked a spot, let's say here, let's say, that's going to be approximately, I might even maybe enlarge this line a little bit to try and get it maybe to be a bit more accurate. So let's just say I'm going to call this point here 500 units. So I have this here, if I just move the quantity out of the way a little bit. So this point here approximately is 500 units. And that 500 units, where did I get that from? That's they plan to sell 500 dresses. So we're currently selling 200, we're planned to sell 500. So if I just move this in, and again, I am approximating, I haven't used graph paper to make it exactly correct, but I am close enough to it. So I'm going to insert a line here now to show the difference between what it is that we're currently selling at and what our break-even point is. So 500 is there. If I draw a line straight up there, that is our expected production, and the difference between the two is our margin of safety. So I'm just going to put in MOS for margin of safety in here, and I'm going to show, I'm going to put an arrow, okay, I'm going to put an arrow in here to show the margin of safety. So the difference between that line there and this line over here is our margin of safety. Okay, so margin of safety is obviously 300 dresses. So we found that, okay, what profit should be made at production output? So again, I'm going to go back to my formula that I had here. So production output. Still using the same formula. I have 275 euro, take away 150 euro, multiplied by the production output, which it says is 500 euro. Take away our fixed cost of 25,000, and that will give me the missing figure I'm looking for here, which is called profit. Okay, so I take my calculator out. I'm just going to do it nice and slow. So I have 125 euro multiplied by 500 dresses. So that gives me 62,500. Take away 25,000. And that gives me 37,500, which is my overall profit. And I know that number was there before, but I needed to show the examiner exactly how I went and calculated. So that's the profit I'm likely to make. Now, it does say to you, illustrate the break-even point on a graph. I'm now moving on to part 4. Break-even point in the graph, that's this point here, so I'm just going to mark it break-even point. Show the margin of safety. I've shown the margin of safety on the graph, and the profit at the expected output. So the profit expected output is, I'm looking for how much profit will be shown on this money line here. So how I do it is, I'm just going to extend this line here. Okay, so this is the total cost line, and I need to extend my sales revenue line. Okay, now so what I'll be doing is I'll be drawing a line that's going to connect those lines, the revenue and the cost line. I'm going to connect it to the money line that we have here on the right hand side. So I'll start by inserting a line from this point here, which is where the sales revenue line meets, all the way across to our money line, which is over here. I'll then go and do the same thing with our cost. So I'll insert another line. So there's the cost there. So this line is going to go all the way across to here. And then the difference, the profit then is going to be the difference between these two lines. So I'm going to just type in, let's say, if I do it here, profit. So the profit then is going to be the difference between these two. So I might just put this in as an arrow showing the difference between the two of these. So the profit I'll put in here. So it's the difference from that line down as far as that line. Now, if we look at it, that there is 25,000. From 0 up to this is 25,000. And that there is a good bit more than 25,000. That should be, if we'd use graph paper, that the length of that line should be the figure that we've calculated down the bottom here, which is 37,500. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you.